Somebody asked also, why does Islam permit slavery? Excellent question. Before Islam, or rather I should say before the Prophet ﷺ came, before Allah commissioned him with the truth, slavery was a big thing, all right? And some of us, when we hear slavery, we think about like 12 years of slave and Amistad and roots and all of that kind of stuff. So it automatically rubs everybody the wrong way, you know what I'm saying? And all the other, the slavery that took place in the U.S., okay, as it relates to the Native American Indians and the slavery that took place all throughout, places like Puerto Rico and Dominican Republic, all the stuff that went on, Haiti, all these places. We think about that, we hear about the tyranny, oppression, right? The raping of the women and all this sick stuff. So as soon as we hear slavery, that's what we think of. And this is normally how slavery goes, especially the slavery that comes out of Europe. That's not a bash or anything offensive towards Europeans, but this is the reality. Okay, historically Europeans have had, I'm not saying that there wasn't worse, but we're talking about recorded history, right? Some of the most famous slavery reports came out of Europe, and it was very tyrannical. Okay, this is a fact. All right. Nonetheless, that's not the concept that we have in Islam as it relates to slavery. Before the Prophet ﷺ was commissioned with truth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or rather I should say humanity, used to practice slavery, buying and selling human beings, okay? And taking prisoners of war, making them slaves, and so on and so forth. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, because of his justice, because of his adala and his rahmah, people's whole economic situation depended upon slaves. You have a huge poverty now. You have 150, 200 people working that property. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have just made that impermissible right away, could you imagine how difficult it would have been? How many crops would have been lost? Right? How much oppression some of the people may have felt economically. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in all of his rahmah and his hikmah, his mercy and his wisdom, what he did was he abolished all the tyrannical oppressive acts that take place during slavery. And he only allowed one type of slavery. Okay, for instance, if a person, the Prophet ﷺ and the companions were at war, right? And we mean real war. We don't mean the stuff you see from the Habiyun and all the people, people like Osama ibn Laden and Anwar al-Awlaki and the stuff that they call to. We don't mean that kind of stuff. This is al-Irhabiyya. The ulama and Sunnah have warned against both of them and declared them to be from the Khawarij, to have the same methodology as the people who revolted against Ali ibn Abi Talib, regardless of how heartfelt some of those lectures may have been. Right? Regardless of how good you feel, you hear those CDs and you hear the stories of the Sahaba and you crying in your car on the way to school. Regardless of that, the scholars of our religion have declared them to be innovators. And the principles that they were upon clash the principles of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, this is a reality. Like it, you like it, dislike. I'm not here to please you. I love you all, but I didn't come here to please anybody. I came here to advise you and to teach you what our ulama have been saying for the last 15, 20 years as it relates to this concept, this khuruj, and this terrorism and this foolishness. That's not the military campaign of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not that. That's terrorism. It's haram. Okay, that's oppression. But we're talking about the real military campaign of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions went out and they had their battles. During those battles, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted them to take captives of war. Now, taking prisoners of war, nobody in history can say that, anybody who studies history and understands history know that this is something that's common amongst humanity. You take prisoners of war. All right, those prisoners of war were kept as slaves. Now, we know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what was the norm with him was that he would free them. He would take prisoners of war and he would let them go right away. That's number one. Number two, one of the conditions for holding those prisoners of war and keeping them as slaves was that they had to eat just like you ate. They had to eat what you eat. You can't give them like bones and fat back and all of that stuff that people used to feed the slaves when they brought them here. Not that garbage that the people still eat today thinking is good food. Not that. We're talking about, if you eating filet mignon, he got to eat filet mignon. Period. One time Umar radiallahu anhu saw one of the slaves standing and a man sitting down eating, and Umar criticized him. How can a man eat while his slave while he leaves the other people, his servants, standing there starving, and the man stopped and invited his slave to come eat. Right? The companions like Abdul Rahman ibn Auf, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, you couldn't even tell him from his slaves. He used to work like they worked, ate like they ate, and hung out with them. You couldn't even tell the difference. The slaves were getting treated so good that they didn't even ask for their freedom. When the Prophet ﷺ permitted them to ask for their freedom and encouraged the companions to let them go, a lot of them wouldn't even ask because they didn't want to leave. Didn't want the companionship that they had between them and their master to cease. You see, some of the Salaf, they would say about their slave, "This isn't my slave, this is my son." And they would treat them like they treat their own children. So the Islamic concept of slavery wasn't like that. And again, we have to understand that during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he kept the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed it was because the people who were originally taken as slaves, right? We're talking about after Islam was established. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed people to be taken captive is if those people were polytheists. People who were upon shirk and kufr. So this was a discouragement from anybody, right, falling into polytheism. All right, this was a major discouragement, something that kept them from falling into that. So there was some hikmah behind it. And we find all through the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, anything you do, you break your fast on Ramadan, be intimate with your wife, you free a slave. You do this, you do that, you free a slave. All these different things that if you free a slave, your sins get expiated. All the encouragement behind the slave, freeing a slave. Buy the slave from this brother and free them. Set your own slaves free. Give your slave dawah, they accept Islam, you marry them. All the virtue and all the reward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave so many incentives for freeing slaves that after a while slavery, where the slaves at now? Where the slaves at now? They're gone. I mean, some of the brothers bugging talking about that maid is their slave. But that ain't the same thing, man. That's you better consider. May Allah have mercy on you. But the slave or slaves now, don't talk about going to this country and getting a right hand possession of delusion. Alright? So, inshallah, we'll move on. Alright, when it's time to eat, don't feel shy. You know, again, as our brother Habib, Hafidhullah, he mentioned that this isn't from the etiquette of the students of Islam, but inshallah, you know, because of the gathering, the type of gathering it is, and the circumstances that people are hungry, we're not going to tell people that they can't eat. But in general, right, when you're sitting, your scholars, not me, but when the scholars visit you, or you go visit them, you take any, don't sit down with a snack like we do in some of the classes the professors may allow us to eat. Don't do that, that's disrespectful, okay? I'm telling you in advance, some of the mashayikh will get up and walk out. Right, Yusuf? They'll get up and they'll leave, they see you eating. And they automatically know we from the West, because the only people who sit down in lectures and eat are people from the West. and we do everything with food. Everything got food and drink. Look, my water bottle, everything is, you know, we do things with food. So, you know, you sit with your ulama, you visit your scholars, don't do that. You're going to give yourself away.